When everything we consume is the worst thing ever by some mouth breather on the internet, how is anything truly the worst thing ever? Time for the only podcast to officially create a list of the worst movies ever made. The only one. For real. Worst movies ever.
Worst movies ever!
It's so weird doing a weekly podcast now. I haven't been doing this for years, and to come back and try and keep up with this with a hectic life, it's taking a little bit out of me. We're going to keep going strong, though. Don't take that as an indication of me getting weak. We got to stay strong here on the Worst Movies Ever podcast if we're going to endure, right? And enduring today brings us to Rats, Night of Terror, made in 1984 by the immortal Bruno Mattei. Those of you out there that are my Euro sleaze fiends from the 70s and 80s know who Bruno Mattei is. We know the schlockmaster himself, responsible for shit like Burial Ground and Zombie 3. Rats, Night of Terror is one of those very infamous Euro trash horror films from the 80s. And when it came up on my randomizer to watch, I was so fucking happy. Euro horror of a very specific time period is such comfort food for me. Like, I will sit and comfort watch anything made by Lucio Fulci or Dario Argento or Bruno Mattei. It's kind of stupid that I put Bruno Mattei in with those two other directors, but I mean, there's a direct correlation and a direct through line from them to Bruno Mattei in a myriad of ways. So for me, watching something like House by the Cemetery and then having a double feature with Rats, Night of Terror, it feels organic. And it feels right. Bruno Mattei essentially is just a carbon copy version of Lucio Fulci. So if you're familiar with Lucio Fulci's films like The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, Zombie, then any of Bruno Mattei's movies are directly in your wheelhouse. And Rats, Night of Terror, you'd be hard pressed, other than the fact that it's completely shitty, to tell the difference between this and any of Lucio Fulci's late 80s, early 90s output. For real. So what is Rats, Night of Terror? In a post-apocalyptic hell, a ragtag group of topside-dwelling biker punks find themselves in a struggle with a deadly, unrelenting horde of hungry rats after they find a lab that seems too good to be true. Rats, Night of Terror is one of those, what you would list or label as bottle horror movies. Not body horror, bottle horror. And what that means is you get a group of people, put them into one location, then have them oppressively being picked off one by one by an unrelenting horde of something, be it zombies, be it other people, be it rats, hordes upon hordes of rats. And they have to survive the night in order to, endure and make it to the end of the movie. And Rats, Night of Terror is absolutely one of those movies. Is it one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life? Well, you guys should probably already know this from the way I introed this fucking podcast. It's far from one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Rats is absolutely your typical 80s post-apocalyptic horror exploitation trash that is both moody and completely ridiculous at the same time. This is my comfort place. These kind of movies. Rats, Night of Terror is an effortlessly watchable Bruno Mattei schlock masterpiece. If you can stomach constant animal cruelty towards rats. There's a pretty big if, right? Why is there always a caveat with every single one of these movies that we do on this podcast, right? It seems like I constantly have to do this, but Rat's Night of Terror, oh boy, it's got a big one. Let's get to the goods.
What is good?
This movie, its biggest good is that it's got that 80s Bruno Mattei vibe. The similar kind of stock synth music that sometimes feels like it's being taken from like John Carpenter in some of like a lower tier Goblin, to the film stock, which immediately brings you straight to that late 70s, early 80s fucking Euro horror vibe. Like there's a certain period of time where the film stock that they used for all of these Italian horror, exploitation, sci-fi, post-apocalyptic hell movies like fucking 1990 Bronx Warriors or anything of that nature, the new Barbarians, Rat's Night of Terror, they all had such a look and a vibe to them that it's like immediately brings you to a place. It also has that extremely prevalent disconnected VO, because if you guys aren't aware, most Italian movies made of that time were mixed casts where there were some English speakers and some non-English speakers, and they just overdubbed everyone with English because these were, you know, marketed straight towards the Western part of this world. So in order to fool everybody that we're American going to the grindhouse theaters, they just overdubbed these motherfuckers, and it is such a weird fucking vibe. Because not in any way does it like make it feel like these people are actually speaking the stuff. Like, you know, that joke where people watch Godzilla movies and they try and make it look like their lips are just not saying what they're saying. That's most of these Italian horror movies, right? But to me, I fucking love that shit. Along with the insanely one-note stereotypes of these 80s movies where the people's names basically reflect exactly what all of their ideology is and how they hold themselves. There's a character named Lucifer, who is obviously a middle finger punk to the world. You got a guy named Video because he's into video games. And you have, which can be listed as one of the bads, and we'll get to this eventually. Greta is in this in one of her first on-screen roles as a character named Chocolate. Because, you know, he's African American. Jesus Christ. And of course, you know, Bruno Mattei is listed as good old Vincent Dawn, as he was many a time to try and bamboozle people into thinking it was someone more Western making this movie instead of Bruno Mattei, who just hornswoggled them out of all their money watching fucking Zombie 3. This movie in particular feels like a mixture of Escape from New York, you know, Carpenter's Escape from New York, and Mad Max. So you'll turn this on, and if you like either of those movies, between the soundtrack and kind of the way that all of the people hold themselves, you'll just dive right into this. You'll enjoy it. You'd really be hard-pressed to know, though, if this was a Lucio Fulci film or Bruno Mattei. And I guess that's a positive. I mean, Fulci, for my dollar, and I know this is going to probably like upset some of my longtime listeners, wasn't the greatest filmmaker. Let's be honest with that. He was a workman. He had a few exceptional movies in the late 70s, early 80s. But the vast majority of his filmography is pretty dog shit, right? Can we agree with that? I know you guys are just going to fucking like comment the hell on this and say, Derek, shut the fuck up. Don't ever fucking record a podcast ever again. What the fuck do you know? You don't know where your ass from a hole in the ground. I said what I said. One of the next good that I have, the setup of this world when the movie starts is a pretty good one. Rat's Night of Terror takes place like 300 years after the nuclear war. So people have started civilizations underground and then eventually over time decided to venture out, thinking that it was probably safe for them to finally venture out topside. And there's a war between the people topside and the people beneath. But little did they know, the people on the top side know that rats have basically taken over the top side. So I kind of like the setup where, you know, people have invaded the subterranean world of the rats, and the rats have been forced up. And now the rats are the dominant species on top of the planet. And now people have to fight the rats to be able to exist where they used to exist. I kind of dug that. I thought it was kind of cool. The gore gags with all of the corpses in this movie are pretty fucking decent for what it is. If this was I watched this on some fucking like, I don't know, DVD or some rip or whatever. So, I mean, the quality of it was what it was. And if it was in HD, I'm sure it probably would have looked like dog shit. But I actually really liked the makeup effects that were on a lot of the corpses that were like when rats had eaten somebody. It was pretty grody in of that time. Not super great like gag gore effects in this movie, but those corpses look pretty gross. And I like that. In the actual use of rats, well, like I said before, is a major bad, is pretty cool. And it's not just a bunch of fucking phony ass rats hanging out, being thrown at people where they have to act like they're holding them and getting eaten. No, these are fucking real ass rats being like tossed on these people. And they are pretty creepy looking. There's a lot of times where they have shots where the rats who have red eyes, the red eyes are like accentuated, and it's fucking creepy as shit. There is this, as I had said before, there's this character named Video who really likes video games. Now get this, how would this guy, 300 years after the nuclear war, unless there's like underground for some reason, they just have a plethora of video games, how would this guy have any idea what video games are? But anyways, he loves them. And they find a computer when they go to this lab, because the movie starts basically with this biker gang that's going through the streets, which is an obvious fucking set. And then they show up at this place and find a computer. And the first thing Video says is, when he can't get it to work, the first thing he says is, "Stupid thing needs to kick in the balls." I fucking loved that shit. Another good in this movie is, hey, equal opportunity nudity. If you're looking for some nice boobies, you're going to get it. If you're looking for that hanging dong, you're going to get it. Both of them are in this. So saddle up, pervs. It's all here. Later, there is a character named Lucifer who drinks like Gothic King Cobra, and I fucking started laughing so goddamn hard. A lot of you aren't going to get that reference. But there was a YouTuber who has recently passed, Josh Saunders, aka Gothic King Cobra, who was known for excessive drinking. But one of the things that he always did was he wanted to act a lot cooler than he was, and he thought drinking was really cool. And every time he would force himself to have to drink the hard shit, like exceedingly hard shit, like fucking Everclear and Jack Daniels and stupid shit like that. And he would take a swig of it. There's a really famous fucking video of him trying sake and taking a shot of it. And he would take a shot and then spit it immediately out and then go, "Ooh, that's really good." So he wanted to drink, but man, he hated the taste of it. So he always put a bunch of fucking sugary shit in it in order to actually drink anything. Well, the character Lucifer in Rat's Night of Terror is basically the same as Gothic King Cobra. He takes a swig and he coughs in repulsion, then exclaims loudly, "What an incredible drink!" All I could think of is R.I.P. Cubs. It's almost like the universe had to give me a character in this week's movie because our dear bud Gothic King Cobra died. Oh my God. This movie, another good, also has full body burns. There is a dude that gets lit on fire because one of the characters is going around with a blowtorch, like torching rats and shit like that. And one guy does a full body burn and just spins in circles. This thing goes on for like a minute and a half. Just spinning in circles, full body burn. Oh, you gotta love that shit. That shit just doesn't happen very often. Especially in low budget movies, man. That's some ballsy ass shit. Another good is that we have a character that is so ridiculous that you can do nothing but laugh at it because in no way does it like resemble a traditional human being. Or maybe it does. I mean, I'll leave it up to you, dear listeners, of whether or not you know a person that's like this. But we have one female character who essentially has never grown past the age of 3 years old. This is a character that appears to be in their 20s. They do nothing but scream over everything that happens to walk past them. And in one scene, when they don't get what they want, sits on the floor and stomps their heels around like a 3-year-old. I thought this character was so fucking hilarious. I goddamn loved it. And then, spoilers.
This is a warning. Thank you.
At the end of this movie, if you don't want the movie spoiled, please just stop listening to this podcast. Why are you listening to this podcast if you don't want it spoiled? I already told you it's not one of the worst movies ever. Go watch this gimmick. Stop listening to me. Then come back and listen to this after you go watch this thoroughly enjoyable piece of schlock. The end, when Greta and Video make their way out, thinking that they're saved. There's a bunch of people coming from the underground. They take off their masks because they, supposed to be irradiated space. Nuclear war happened and that shit doesn't dissipate. The half-life on that shit was probably ridiculous. Probably go on for 1,000 years. These people that come from the underground in full biohazard outfits take off their masks and they're rat people. That shit was rad as fuck. If you look at the art for the cover art for this episode, it's one of the rat people. I totally spoiled it, but there we are. Let's get to the bads.
What is bad?
Oh, the opening text scroll that basically sets up the world that we inhabit for the rest of the movie is so shittily done. Like, it's clear that it is just a superimposition that they dragged over the screen. Because if you weren't aware, back in the day, they didn't really have computers to use for this kind of stuff. So they would use like transparencies that were printed, then just pull them over top. If in real low budget situations, just pull them over top of another image and then marry those two together. Now, the clear sheet that they used for the superimpositions on this one was filthy as fuck. They didn't clean it. And it's so fucking apparent when it just about is done that it's dirty and scratched up. And it's like, come on, guys. You had one fucking job. You couldn't do that. Also, another bad, the vehicles, they are made to look Mad Maxy, but in typical 80s Italian exploitation, post-apocalyptic bullshittery, they just look extremely fucking cheap. Like your nephew that does the soapbox derby, has made a better fucking vehicle than these jokers did for this movie. Let me tell you. Another bad, I had told you before, the town that these people walk into when they find this lab is an obvious set. In no way are you ever bamboozled into thinking this is like a practical city that they're walking through. This shit looks so cheap and so bad. And according to the wiki, these were sets that were basically redone from Once Upon a Time in America. Boy, did they go down fucking hill. Oh, another bad is, yeah, this has got that typical English Italian overdub that renders most of the acting to come across awkwardly, especially in terms of emotion. When these characters, and this is like, there's nothing you can do about it. You're either going to embrace it or you just laugh at almost everything that's said with any sort of inflection. It's impossible to act when it's your voice is taken completely away from you. So every time somebody is like excited or angry or whatever, the voice is capturing a different emotion than their actions are. So it looks fucking ridiculous. I personally like that kind of thing, but most people don't. And I get it. There's a scene in this movie where everybody essentially, when they first wind up at the place that's the lab, it's basically like a bar. And they find some food and they find flour and sugar. And I'll get to this when I get to my what the fucks. And Greta, being the only person that is black in this entire movie, has flour poured all over her, then dances and awkwardly says, "Look, I'm white. I'm whiter than all of you," repeatedly. And remember, her name is Chocolate. And it just comes across so badly. It feels so horrible. I felt bad. I'm sure Greta, I can't speak for her. I met her once at a convention many years ago, and she was absolutely wonderful. I can't imagine. This had to be fun for her to do this, but who knows? Maybe it was. It comes across extremely racist. Extremely racist. Okay, another bad. The punk rock chick that is with Lucifer, and they bump uglies, and that's where the equal opportunity nudity happens in this movie. She gets killed by a rat by a very simple little bite. And the group find her, and to prove that she's dead, because she's in like a sleeping bag, the only way they find out she's actually dead is by unzipping the bag, and they pull it open just enough to expose her tits. They don't check her pulse. They don't check to see where she's been bitten. They literally just unzip the bag, open it up, make sure her tits are exposed, and then declare her dead. What the fuck is that? I probably should have put that in the what the fucks. Because what the fuck? Oh, and another bad. This supposedly, like I said before, takes place 230 years post the nuclear bomb and war. They're still using Bic lighters. Where the fuck? There ain't no Quick Trip. Where the fuck are they? There's no 7-Eleven. There's no Circle K. Where the fuck are they getting Bic lighters from? Jesus Christ. And then my last bad is there is a 10-minute long slow walk through rats scene. And at this point, and this is toward the end where the people, it's basically like the last half hour, 40 minutes is just these people trying to survive all of these rats that are showing up everywhere. And they just are slowly trying to walk around them. And it just drags the movie to a screeching halt. Because it's just people that are, and let's go ahead and get to the what the fucks.
What the fuck is that?
One of my major what the fucks is the animal cruelty. They never have, in this scene, to relate it to the bad I was just talking about, this slow walk sequence, there's never enough fucking rats to make it seem like they're actually a threat. Like, it's clear they could just walk around these fucking rats that are popping up and showing up everywhere. Maybe there's like 10, 15 rats at a time, maybe 20, but it's a pretty wide open space and there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to walk around these fucking gimmicks. But the main what the fuck, other than the fact that the rats don't seem like that much of a threat, if you just kind of like, you're like 400 times bigger than these things. There are scenes where these people are standing still and just rats are poured on them from above. Or scenes where people are like waving fire or hitting these rats and these rats are flying all over the place. I know back in the day in the 70s and 80s with Italian exploitation films, there's a long history of the Italians really not giving a fuck about like animal safety. I mean, Cannibal Holocaust had those turtles that were totally shredded and ripped open, and many other movies where animals, the safety of them just totally disregarded as long as, you know, they get the shot that they need for the movie. And Rat's Night of Terror, while there are a lot of scenes where it's obvious they're using dummy rats, there are a lot of scenes where actual rats are being swatted away, being literally poured from above on top of people. Like, we're talking like 20, 30 rats poured on these people where these rats are just dropping. So it's like, what the fuck is that? Like, especially by today's standards, that shit just doesn't fly, right? We don't do that kind of shit anymore. So if that's something that bothers you, then you might not want to watch this movie. But if you fucking hate rats, this is the movie for you. Because they get fucked up. And the final what the fuck I have for this movie is the sugar flower scene that I had alluded to earlier. And the group finds this bar and they find this food and they just sit and like dance around and like gorge on sugar. Like it's, and I just didn't understand the scene. Like they're eating just raw sugar and flour and dancing around like it's Christmas. I suppose, you know, in the post-apocalypse, maybe food is really hard to come by. Maybe there's no animals to eat, but this scene just seemed very fucking weird. And it went on forever. And that's all I got for Rat's Night of Terror. I absolutely implore all of you to check this thing out. It's awkward. It's weird. It's kind of spooky in spots where like the tone of it is pretty decent. None of the acting is good. The things that everybody says is just completely fucking ridiculous, but it flies by. And if you're into really shitty, like so bad it's good movies, Rat's Night of Terror should be on your list for your next get together. So that's all I got this week on the podcast. Next week, we will be diving in to the pseudo quote unquote sequel to Night of the Living Dead called Children of the Living Dead. It has been a long ass time since I've watched this movie. So I am not exactly excited, but it came up and I watched it. And we're going to cover it here next week on the podcast. So thanks again, everybody, for reaching out, listening, and subscribing to the podcast. Do you know some people that are into shitty ass movies? Push them my way. Have a good one, and I'll catch you next time.
Worst Movies Ever podcast is executive produced by Vaughn Koolmeyer and Shannon Smith. For more Worst Movies Ever, and to make the Doctor watch your worst movies ever, subscribe to the Worst Movies Ever Patreon at patreon.com/Worst Movies Ever. There you will get a monthly exclusive WME podcast plucked from the user-generated film list, randomized episode to episode. Until next time, celebrate trash at all costs. Toodles.